Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. It's your host, Isaiah Rhodes, and I'm here with a frequent collaborator, Frank Teah.
What's
We
up,
speak
guys?
sports all the time. So today's episode is centered on the game sixes tonight and some surprises throughout the playoffs that I haven't really gotten a chance to really dive into because I'm still trying to fathom how they happen. So just to get started, when you look at the matchups tonight, you got Cleveland, Indiana. You have OKC and Utah. Those two game sixes have a lot riding on them. Considering that Cleveland is in the driver's seat at 3-2 with a huge game-winning shot from LeBron James, completely continuing to shoot holes in the narrative that he's not clutch. Big time basket, 44 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. But not only did he do that, he put momentum back on Cleveland's side going into Indiana. And then you have Utah and Oklahoma City. For those particular game sixes, which one are you looking forward to seeing?
Um, as a LeBron fan, I want him to close it out tonight and the Cavs to close it out. But I think the Utah, OKC will be a better game because there's so much riding on it. If the Cavs lose, they go back home for 7, and I had no doubt that LeBron closed it at home. But Utah, this is big. Russell Westbrook, the top 5 player last year's MVP, can possibly get taken out tonight, which would hurt him a lot because it'll make the narrative. That helped the narrative that KD left because of him. So I think there's more to lose, right? Also, the Ben Simmons Donovan Mitchell argument is over because the voting has ended. But I think that regardless of how the rookie of the year results come out, if Mitchell can propel his team to a first round upset over a top 5 player and a top 15 player, 15-20 and Paul George, I think that would look really well for his rookie case. Whether he gets it or not, this win of both of him, and the fact that he went in averaging 26 points against his team and went at two of the best players in the league, I think that helped him. So I think it's a lot riding on that game. I personally think that Utah loses. I think that last game not only did they blow a lead, I think their morale got killed. To be up by 25 points and to lose in that fashion, I don't think it bodes well for a younger team. So Diamond have a bright future. Utah will be a good team going forward. They're a quality organization. They have a great young player who I think will have a D Wade like career, minus the championships, of course. But I think he have a D Wade kind of numbers career. He'll probably be a guy who gets above 25 points per game in the next 2 to 3 seasons. But I think they ultimately lose that series. I think Russell did last game. I think it propels them to a game 6, and I think they ended at home. So I think OKC ends up winning the series.
Now, in terms of how you broke that down, specifically in terms of the rookie of the year aspirations for both Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell, for both, obviously their trajectory is high, but I feel like for this particular rookie of the year, it's very similar to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many will consider Larry Bird and Magic synonymous with each other because of their dominance in the 80s, one in the West, one in the East. But at the same time, when you look at who won the Rookie of the Year that year, it was Larry Bird, but Magic ended up winning the championship and Finals MVP. So I feel like there's some compliments there to each other that
Definitely
go back to that 80s rivalry. But at the same time, like you said, when you look at this matchup, it's styles make fights. So you have an immovable object with an unstoppable force.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have Russell Westbrook, who's so dynamic at getting downhill and being able to attack, everything opens up both of that.
Yep.
Rudy Gobert's presence inside really just makes it difficult not only for Russell, but makes it difficult for whoever he's guarding. It's very difficult to run pick and rolls with Rudy Gobert because he's so versatile. His wingspan is able to defend multiple positions at the same time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, when you have the likes of Carmelo Anthony struggling the way he is from the outside, it puts Oklahoma City at a difficult space.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, blowing a 25-point lead is one thing, but when you have Russell get in a groove the way he did, knowing that he's such an unstoppable player because he doesn't stop, that might have unlocked something inside that lets him know that this can be done. And coming
sure.
back from a 3-1 without Kevin Durant bodes well for his legacy as well. I think that game 5, was a legacy defining game for Russell. So I think that works. In terms of Cleveland, Indiana, now that series is a lot closer than many might have assumed it would be.
For sure.
Based on us breaking down the game off air and things of that nature, it's a lot closer because I think Indiana is a better team. But when you have the best player on your team, which Cleveland does, it allows them to get away with so much.
Yep.
And it works both ways because LeBron knows that his level of production can be replicated over and over. That's not an issue. The thing is, Cleveland is still struggling to win games when Victor Oladipo, especially over the last 3 games, is shooting 24%.
That's pretty alarming. Yeah.
So I think this particular game 6, it will. If Indiana loses, they weren't supposed to lose anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't supposed to win anyway.
Yeah.
But if Cleveland is able to win this game,
yeah,
it'll bode well for their confidence. The other players,
so well.
Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, and I think that's necessary for their next matchup, which would be Washington-Toronto. Now, the Washington-Toronto series could potentially go 7 or end tonight as well. Toronto's up 3-2. What are you seeing from that series?
I think Washington pulls it out and they go 7. I have Toronto win in 7, but I think Washington wins tonight. I think John Wall hasn't had a particularly great playoffs, although the numbers may suggest otherwise. His numbers look okay, but I don't think he's played the best. But I think he had a good close to tie the series to Game 4. Good fourth quarter, especially when Bill went out. And I think he had a pretty good Game 5, they just lost. So I think tonight he ride that momentum, and he played pretty well tonight. I think Bill plays well. Toronto is a scary team because, and I mean scary in both capacities, that they're really strong, deepest bench supposedly. They won a whole lot of games this year, but now they're potentially looking at a 7-game series with what I think is the worst team in the playoffs currently.
Now, coming into this season, Washington would have been considered a top 4 team in the East.
Yeah.
And because of the changeover with Cleveland, they probably felt like they could jump to a top 3 team, maybe a top 2 team. When you look at how their talent plays out with this Toronto team, it's relatively even in terms of backcourt being able to lead the team, and then you have the supporting cast. So you should have the supporting cast of a Oubre, a Porter, a Morris, Gortat. But I just think the interworkings of that team is not what an elite team should be. Mentioned John Wall's impact might not be what the stats suggest.
Yep.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I think a lot of as a great of a player as he is, in playoff time, a lot of his stats are empty.
Yep.
So this particular game, being at home, it'll be similar to Game 6 against Boston last year. They'll probably win, but we have to pay attention to how they win because the game in Toronto in Game 5, they were in position to win, being up 5 with 7 minutes left. You have John Wall playing a pretty good game. You have Bradley Beal, solid enough, not great at the time, but he was solid enough to finish out the game. And then they don't close it out. I think I truly believe that series can go either way. But I would lean towards Toronto just because their offense is more efficient.
I would as well. Kyle Lowry also isn't having particularly good series, but I think
what's new with that though?
Like that's the thing for the past 4 seasons. He doesn't have good playoffs. He always does this, and he's a $30 million a year guy. So that's pretty disappointing, but that's the trend of things. So I think it'll be a good series.
There's news coming out that Otto Porter will be out for the remainder of the first round and potentially some of the second round if they advance due to a leg fasciotomy. So that's an issue. But that could help Washington, even addition by subtraction, because now Oubre will have more of an opportunity to play his game. I was always of the opinion that when you have Otto Porter and Oubre together, they can't both relatively do the same thing.
Yeah.
And because Otto Porter is $100 million man, he has to be more featured
More
and take
featured.
more
Yep.
play.
I think Oubre, they do similar things. Porter shoots better. I think Oubre has slightly better basketball skills. I mean, off
Right.
the dribble, a better athlete, a pretty nice outside shooter. With better mechanics than his percentages suggest. But yeah, I think I like Oubre better all around. But Porter's $100 million guy. Porter can knock down the three at a higher rate, and he gets paid that money, so he has to be part of. He has to be that third guy for Washington. So yeah, I think that Oubre steps up, and I think that Morris steps up as well with Porter out.
Now, here's what I really want to dive into. Although these particular first round matchups are going to down to the wire,
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple of teams out west that are waiting for everyone to get finished.
Yeah.
Houston Rockets, they have the best record in the league.
Yeah.
They have the presumptuous MVP for 2018 and James Harden, deservedly so.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the New Orleans Pelicans, who are waiting to play the Golden State Warriors. Now, when I say New Orleans, that surprises a lot of people.
For sure.
Not that New Orleans couldn't beat Portland. It's just in the fashion in which they beat Portland. I think
dominated them. Yeah.
For me, I was always of the opinion that a great player is able to get you one game.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how bad the matchup is, if you're a dynamic player enough, you should be able to steal a game. And I felt like coming into that series that Damian Lillard was of that ilk. He's not a top 5 player, but I feel like his competitive greatness will drive him to get a game, especially in a relatively evenly matched series.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have this conversation with you to really break down how a series of this magnitude and on paper should be relatively even turns into a completely one-sided matchup.
For sure. So I think the biggest strength for one team got negated because of the skill set of another team, right? So Portland has probably second best backcourt in the NBA in Lillard and McCollum, right? But they're going against New Orleans. So Drew Holiday is an interesting case. Probably about 6 years back, me and you used to go back and forth whether he's the best young point guard in the NBA, right? So Drew in Philly, the year where he was an All-Star, he had a 19 and almost 9 assist season, right? And this is before Kyrie was able to make a playoff. So it was looking like Drew Holiday was that guy. Wasn't that consistent going forward, and came to New Orleans and didn't really find his niche. Then he took some time out because his wife had brain cancer. Took time out to take care of his family and came back. So he was always a guy who was extremely talented, right? But just wasn't playing well for a while. So and then Rajon Rondo, someone with championship pedigree, always been known to be like a good star defender, was once one of the best point men in the NBA. And he's also someone who kind of bounced around. So within Dallas, didn't do so well there. Currently now with New Orleans, but still hadn't found his groove until recently there. So I think it was just a perfect storm for the Hornets, and I think it was a perfect nightmare for Portland. So the series starts. Yes, we expect. I don't think we can let Dame off the hook in this, right? But we expect Dame to be a little better. But we also don't account for the fact that Drew Holiday was going to be that good. So I forget who the reporter was, but a month ago, the actual reporter, well, since KD went out with an injury, right, defense player of the year was kind of up in the air. So who'd you give it to? And he named Drew Holiday, and folks started to laugh at him. So the series starts, and Drew Holiday just completely shuts down Dame, right? And we knew Drew was a good defender, but this is kind of scary. And I think him shutting him down kind of propelled him off. Okay, well, I can lock him up. Now let me take him on offense. So I think those two things kind of really helped Drew Holiday, like gave him confidence that I can slow this guy down who's a top 4 to 5 point guard in the NBA. I can also give him trouble on offense, right? And now the Boogie injury is interesting, right? Because folks said, well, if Boogie was there, it would have been worse. I think that goes both ways. So as we know, sometimes it's hard to see who the number one guy is when Boogie and AD is there. Sometimes AD is number one, sometimes Boogie, right? But it's a pecking order. They're definitely 1 and 2. Drew Holiday is in a weird third spot, right? So when two guys, Boogie and AD are two mid-volume guys, so they both require about 20 or so shots, right? So that doesn't leave a lot of room for a guard to do what he can do for Drew. But now Boogie goes down, so that second role is more definitive. Drew had to be the second guy, right? So his confidence is there. So I think he rode the high horse of knowing I can do a good job when I got defensively. Also, on offense, I had the shots. And not only I had the shots, but since AD is more of a mid-post to post big, the perimeter is mine to kind of control. So I think all those things just work together and they click for the at the right time. Also, their bench played really well. Rondo was his self, and Rondo was his regular self, who was a good defender and also a pretty good point man. So I think when we look back, yeah, the series is close in like talent wise, but the parts that work well for both teams work in New Orleans' favor. So the guard matchup wasn't as far as folks expected. It was actually one side towards New Orleans. But even if Dame had played better, it still would have been a far drop off. But the drop off from what AD can do compared to what Portland's bigs can do would have been far either way. So I think even if Dame plays better, maybe they get a game or two, but I think New Orleans was just more adept to handle the series than Portland was, and that's what we saw play out.
Now, I was hoping you got to that particular point because that's what we spoke about off air in terms of the gap between what Anthony Davis does against Ed Davis and Nurkic and Mo Hopeless compared to what Drew Holiday is doing with CJ McCollum and Rajon Rondo. I think that particular gap took away from whatever Dame did, and when you think about it, Dame didn't even play dominant, so it only compounds and just adds to the avalanche. In a similar case, we can go over to Utah and OKC. Now, for New Orleans and Portland, it's only a 1-game difference, right?
Yeah.
For Utah and OKC, they won the same amount of games.
Yeah.
But OKC won the season series 3-1. And when they won the season series 3-1, it was two different teams at the time.
Yeah.
That season series was over before the new year.
Yeah.
Andre Roberson is there, which means you have arguably the best defensive player in the NBA with Paul George, who's able to defend multiple positions.
1, 2, 3.
Utah. And then Donovan Mitchell didn't have the confidence.
Not yet.
At that point that he has now. He was able to finish the season. He was able to finish the year as the featured scorer on a team that won 29 of the last 35 games.
Yeah, which is an amazing second half record.
Right. So you put all of that together and then you come into this series. Now, OKC has been marred by inconsistency throughout the entire season. A lot of that has to do with trying to incorporate three players at the same time, all with different skill sets, but the sacrifice had to be put on Westbrook, so he had to defer early. Then they figure out the pecking order, which you really shouldn't have, but you do. Paul George number 2, Melo number 3 or 4. Then let Russell Westbrook do his triple-double thing. Yeah. Coming into the playoffs, they're able to, survive. But on paper, it says talent goes to OKC, and they have the experience. Yeah. So in a series like that, why has it been so one-sided?
I don't think we accounted for a rookie being this good, and especially in the fourth quarter. Mitchell has been a killer in the fourth quarter, right? So I think that's one. So he was at 27 points prior to Game 5 27 points per game. That's just an anomaly. That's something you can't account for. Carmelo's first series as a rookie was like that. So that's just whoa, right? So that's one thing. Also, Utah has a really good unit. I think Rubio is playing better than expected as well. Joe Ingles also playing pretty better than expected, or doing what he should have done. Russell didn't have a particularly good 3-game stretch. Looking at games 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. Yep. Didn't play the best until that big outburst last night. So yeah, I think perfect storm. Also, Carmelo Anthony. I think he's been the X factor. If the whole year, yes, we can argue that it was hard to fit the third option. He's a guy who's used to being featured, one of the best scorers of his generation. Typically a 25-point per game guy, had to adjust to taking less shots and averaging 16 points, a career low, right? So you thought he'd probably struggle, but I don't think we could imagine him averaging under 13 points per game. This just looks like totally uncharacteristic. So if he was just a little better, right, particularly in those close games, you'd argue OKC may have the advantage now going forward. Russell, as much as I like him, really great point guard, probably the best point guard in the NBA. I think the game 4 was a blunder. I think he probably spent a little too much attention to Rubio. So yes, Rubio shouldn't score 26 points a game, right? That's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, you kind of got to live with what Rubio does. And he should have played his game. I think he may have come out trying to prove something to Rubio when in fact he should have been trying to win a game. And by the time he probably figured it out, I think Utah was already in the zone. Things weren't going for OKC. He wasn't shooting well. So again, perfect storm for Utah from games 1 through 4. You had a rookie who's looking like a top 5 scorer in the NBA. You have a big man who's patrolling the paint. You have a really savvy point guard who's shooting the ball better than he normally does. You have the 3 ball is falling. You have your bench contributing. And I think Utah historically is just one of the toughest arenas to play in. Solutions Arena typically gets extremely loud on ruckus, and they're used to having decent to good squads, so they have a winning atmosphere there. So I think, again, perfect storm happened, but I think that perfect storm may have been quieted or calmed with this Game 5 blunder. So that's what I think we'll see going forward. I think Russell goes in and has a pretty big game in Utah, and he brings it back home. We could be wrong, but I think OKC ultimately pulls it out now that, because I think Utah's morale may be a tad broken from letting such a winnable game slip because they had it. You're up 25 points. If you continue to, even if they outscore you by a few points, right, you just have to be half as good to win a game, right? But to lose, that means at some point they completely erase what you've done and score the ball in you. I think it's a hard pill to swallow. Now Gobert was in foul trouble, so so hopefully that's not the same tonight. But I just think that that gave OKC confidence because George and Russell almost combined for 80 points. So
now, when you look at specifically with those two, that really was the first game that I've ever seen those two complement each other at the peak of what the potential could be.
Yeah.
A lot of times, specifically with those three, it always seemed a little odd. I think the fact that Golden State was able to dominate to the level that they did when Kevin Durant went over there, and then you add to the fact that Russell had to carry so much last year as a solo act. I think Sam Presti tried to do everything he can to make sure that never happened again.
Yeah.
But because of that, now he panicked too much.
Yeah.
I think the compliment of Paul George without Carmelo probably would have worked a lot more easier.
I agree.
Especially coming into the playoffs, because the initial workings of it is very similar to Kevin Durant and Russell, and Russell's already used to. He's already used to playing with a player of that caliber.
Yeah.
But what also helps it is that Paul George is a lesser version. Not to say that Paul George isn't a great player. He's an exceptional player and versatile in other areas that maybe Durant wasn't. But I should say he's a lesser version as a scorer. He won't get in Russell's way as a scorer. He'll do other things like play defense, be a facilitator, and that will impact the game just as much as what Kevin can do.
Yep.
As a scorer, and won't get in the way of Russell. But I feel like with Carmelo there, because Carmelo was in New York for 6+ years, even when they were struggling, he's in a huge market. He has a name. So even when his game is diminishing, it doesn't look the same.
He's still Carmelo.
Right. So because those two were able to dominate, and that not even the whole third quarter, I would say since 8:34 remaining in the third, going into the fourth. By the end of the third quarter, the game is tied. So you have a 25-point deficit tied at the end of the third.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Yeah. And then looking at how they were able to you brought up Gobert's foul trouble. He was in foul trouble, but the momentum that was built by the time he came back in, even with him being in there, it didn't matter
at all.
I think to your point, that is what could be dangerous coming into Game 6 tonight, because now they understand it doesn't matter if he's there or not. We still can
We can
get
do this.
shots. We still can
Yeah.
flow together.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge would be for Billy Donovan, head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He found a lineup without Carmelo that was able to be efficient, able to be able to move defensively, switch on everything, and you're able to truly allow Russell and Paul to be able to manipulate the defense to their will. In that regard, do you see, if it gets to 7 and they pull it out, do you see this particular dynamic changing going against Houston? Do you think that will make them a more formidable matchup against Houston, or will they need Carmelo?
I think Houston is a high volume scoring team, right? So I think you need all the firepower you get, but you also want Carmelo to score, right? So if he's not up in his average to 16, 18 where it could be, then you may have to work with the team that's a little more versatile defensively and can move better. So you want your biggest guns there against a team like Houston, because that just seems like the most plausible thing to combat their firepower. But if one of those guns is empty, then he may not be as valuable to you than he'd be otherwise. So
great point. Now I want to go back to your point about specifically with Portland and New Orleans, and how the skill set and the strengths might have offset towards New Orleans' favor. Do you think that can work in their favor against Golden State?
This is a cool series. I still had the belief that Golden State can gel without Steph. Definitely not be as great, but that they can gel, and that first round may give them confidence. But the high horse that New Orleans is riding, I think, even if Steph comes back, if he's not healthy with the tendency, we've seen what happened when you can't hide Steph, right? So in the 2016 finals, we saw what Kyrie did. So Steph wasn't playing the best offensively, and also you had a guard going square at him, right? So if that's able to happen, and they'll probably put a Clay or Iguodala on Drew. But if Steph is attacked, right, especially not being full strength, that opens up way more for New Orleans. So I think we're looking at a 6-game series if Steph misses some games, possibly. And if Steph isn't fully back health-wise, I think we're still looking at a 6-game series. I think they have a lot of trouble. I think no one can deal with Kevin Durant on New Orleans, but no one on Golden State can deal with Anthony Davis. So I think those two things offset. And we talk all the time that guards can carry you over long periods of time, right? Because they can control the ball, so scoring, facilitating, they control the ebb and flow of a game. But if we mean like in instances where we're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6 games, big men can be more impactful because you have no answer for them. So think about the championship that the Lakers won, 2000, right? Where Shaq was going for over 33 and 13 a game, right? Those series. No answer for him, right? But if you think about the 03 season where Shaq sat out, what Kobe was able to do over the course of a year, guards can definitely carry you over games. But if we make the scope a few games, a big man's impact can be second to none. That's just really hard to compensate for, because how do you stop that? You're talking about high percentage shots that consistently happen, right? It's just hard to defend for that. So we could be witnessing a pretty good series going forward, depending on how Steph's injury plays out. And even if he's there, if New Orleans can still win and Golden State, I think the Warriors may be in trouble.
And see, that's where the conundrum is.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement with that Golden State is in trouble, no matter what happens.
Yep.
The way that even if Golden State is favored, the way that New Orleans matched up against a team of a similar strength, and what Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
Even though they're a lesser version of Golden State, they're the ultimate, tester for what's to come.
Yeah.
Now, the ability to steal a game on the road, Golden State's home court advantage is second to none.
Yes.
And then you have to add into the fact that while Golden State is, they are down. They do have championship pedigree. They understand
Yeah.
what it's like to elevate their game to the next
Mm-hmm.
level. Most teams have to work their way to that point.
Yep.
They've done it for so long. They know what it takes to, you know, raise their game to a higher level. I'm
Mm-hmm.
of the opinion, no disrespect to San Antonio, but I think that Golden State was really just able to have some open runs
Yeah.
against a G League affiliate just to get in
Yeah.
shape. Really, it's not
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily the series was in doubt ever.
Yeah.
Much respect to San Antonio franchise dealing with a lot of different situations,
Yeah.
specifically with Greg Popovich and the death of his wife.
For
Then you
sure.
have the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, which if it was a different franchise, that would be plastered everywhere on every news cycle
For sure.
every day. But I think because of the way San Antonio handles the organization, it's a much smaller story than it should be.
Yeah.
Considering everything that went on, Golden State really ran through that series.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't tested.
Yeah.
But to go against the dynamic Anthony Davis, who has the
Yeah.
confidence that he has, who by many accounts is probably the most talented player in the NBA,
Yeah.
but durability and just lack of a team around him hasn't put him in these situations.
Yeah.
That first round matchup against Portland showed the world he's here and he
Yeah,
wants to
man.
dominate.
I don't
So
know.
having that on his shoulders, knowing what he can do, are you willing to bet money, or not bet money, but are you willing to say that New Orleans will win?
No, I still wouldn't do that. I still say words and six, but I am willing to say that depending how these first two games, New Orleans will surprisingly test Golden State like they haven't been before. I will say that
Mm,
because we know they went to 7 with OKC a few years back, but I think people thought that'd be a tough series, right?
right.
Um, before they started, people were like, okay, if New Orleans catches Golden State, it'll be 5 games at most, right? I
Right.
think I think if those first two games are hard fought or one is stolen, I think we're in for a longer than expected series.
Yeah, it's subject to change after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure.
All right, most definitely. Now you mentioned big men and big men and their ability to change series
Yeah,
specifically in condensed time period.
mm-hmm.
So going back to the East, you
Yeah,
have the series Boston and Milwaukee. That's
mm-hmm.
gonna go. That's going 7. The
Yeah,
first game 7 that we have of this playoffs.
mm-hmm.
You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's the best player in this series. You
Yeah,
have Boston, who is the best team.
yeah,
Whoever wins that series is going to play Philadelphia. Philadelphia
mm-hmm.
ran through Miami. 2 of those games was missed by Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid comes back. He dominates in a variety of ways, scoring defensively. You have Ben
Mm-hmm.
Simmons, best playmaker in the game outside of LeBron,
Mm-hmm.
a rookie. Depending on who wins that matchup, who does Philly want to see and who don't they want to see?
While I'd say Boston is the better team, I'm probably a tad. I'd probably fear Milwaukee a little more just because of Giannis' star power. I think as teams get better, go-to guys can swing the pendulum, right? So yeah, I'd probably rather see Boston if I was Philly. Really good system, players who play hard, a lot of wings they can throw on. They can throw on Simmons, but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to see what Giannis gets in a groove looks like at home. I think it's a lot more scary because the first round they got open not playing a go-to guy.
Mm.
So is Philly ready to handle a go-to guy for 6 games? Possibly. But I think it's a scarier sight as opposed to a team with good role players but no real star at the moment because Kyrie's down. So I'd rather see Philly I'd rather see Boston if I were Philly.
Now, if you're Philly,
Uh-huh.
that could be that's a precursor for what could potentially be
Yeah.
if you play LeBron.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a case study of similar situations, just in the opposite. Because if Toronto beats Cleveland,
Yeah.
and Philly gets through
Yeah.
Boston or Milwaukee,
Uh-huh.
Toronto is Boston,
Yeah.
Cleveland is Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna potentially face LeBron, You want to be battle tested
Okay.
against Giannis.
Yeah, to see what it looks like.
Right.
I can see that. But again, I don't think playing anyone can prepare you for playing LeBron.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, like it will be close, but I think that's just different magnitude. So I think Philly be good either way. Even if they played Milwaukee, I think they win and at most 6 with whoever they see. So yeah.
It'll be something to watch. A lot is riding on tonight.
Yeah.
You have a 7 o'clock matchup with Washington and Boston. Then you have the 8 o'clock 8 o'clock game with Cleveland in Indiana, which is in Indiana.
Yeah.
And that particular matchup has a lot riding on it. Indiana feels pressure now.
Yeah.
Because they blew 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
The last 2 games, they had an opportunity to win both of them. Victor Oladipo, as we mentioned, his struggles have really put Indiana in a bind because when you have Bogdanovich scoring 30 in one game and then you have Domantas Sabonis coming back and giving you 19, you're supposed to win those games.
You are.
You have a goaltending call that wasn't called, many arguing that it should have been. A lot can be said about that, but at the same time, the play before that, Miles Turner knocked the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
The ball in
It goes both ways.
So, with that said, a lot is riding on tonight. And then the finale of the night, OKC, Utah. So, Frank, thank you for your analysis. We'll be back to just break down whatever happens and prepare you guys for the second round. This is Ask Isaiah. My guest, Frank Teah. Thank you for breaking down everything you can and much more.
For sure.
To the guests, follow me on Instagram at Ask Isaiah. Follow me on Twitter at Ask Isaiah. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe, everything. Thank you.
All right.